You're listening to The More the Merrier on CIUT 89.5 FM. I'm Donna G. Coming up on today's show, I'll be speaking with Rosa Laborde, whose play Marine Life will be part of the 6th annual De Colores Festival of New Works by Latin Canadian Playwrights, which runs from October the 16th to the 18th. I will also be speaking to Santee Smith about A Story Before Time, a First Nations creation story, which runs at the Young People's Theatre from October 16th to the 24th. Of course, I'll have music for you, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. The play Marine Life by Rosa Laborde is premiering on Friday, October 18th. And joining me by telephone now is the playwright herself, Rosa Laborde, to talk about her play Marine Life. Rosa, welcome to CIUT.
Oh, thank you so much.
So, Marine Life, can you give us a synopsis of the play before we go further?
Sure. Marine Life is a play about a woman who is an environmental activist and her emotionally unstable brother who suffers from bipolar disorder. When she falls in love with a man who is a corporate lawyer who doesn't care at all about ecological catastrophes, the lives of the three characters change completely.
So tell me why you decided to incorporate a play with somebody who has a mental illness. That's a very difficult topic to tackle, and it's also surrounded by stigma as well.
I think it's unfortunate how much stigma it's surrounded by, because it doesn't afford us the opportunity to talk about it, and it's something that many, many people are dealing with in our society. If not themselves, everyone has a loved one or a friend who has struggled in some way. And for me personally, it's definitely something that I have encountered in my life, people who I care about very much. And so I thought it was important to talk about it and to write about it.
So the character has bipolar disorder. Is there a reason you chose this form of the mental illness rather than others?
Particularly this disorder, because there are people that I know who I care about very much who struggled with it, but also this character is a musician, and I liked paralleling the highs and lows of the artist.
Okay.
With the disorder.
Yeah, that's definitely understandable given the nature of the illness. What kind of musician is this character?
He plays guitar and he sings.
Okay. And contrasting him is the sister. Tell me more about her and what her name is.
Her name is Sylvia, and she is someone who really passionately believes that she can and will make the world a better place by committing herself to environmental causes. And she's particularly passionate about the oceans and our water and the fish that live in the sea and our lakes and rivers. She is one of the people who believes that man came from the sea, that we evolved from fish. And so they're sort of like our motherland that we should be caring for with everything we have.
And you have the third character of the corporate lawyer.
Yes.
I can understand why you would include such a character to round out the three, but how is it that your character of Sylvia falls in love with somebody who's so different?
Well, he catches her by the river. It's right at the beginning of the play. The second scene, he's fishing, and he literally hooks her in the neck with his with his fishing line.
Mm-hmm.
And they start this discourse, which is very much sort of not antagonistic, but it's definitely a little bit argumentative. But Rupert, the character of Rupert, is really obsessed with old movies, black and white classics, where you kind of have that, tongue-in-cheek kind of way of flirting that is a bit it's like all those characters where they don't really get along, but then they realize they're in love.
Mm-hmm.
That's his template.
Okay.
So when he meets Sylvia, she completely sparks that for him, and he really convinces her that he's a good choice.
Okay. I don't believe we've named the brother. What's the brother's name?
John.
John.
But he sometimes calls himself Juan.
Okay.
Because he plays mariachi.
All right. Mariachi.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting type of music to also include. Tell me more about the mariachi, and if you have any personal links to this type of music.
Well, I love mariachi. I think it's beautiful. I'm my characters of John, Juan, and Sylvia are born North American, but their father was Mexican, and their father was a mariachi, a failed mariachi player, and Juan tries to sort of follow in his footsteps. I'm half Chilean, so what I understand is more the feeling that they have, which is being fish out of water, which means that you are half in the place that you are, but half from somewhere else, and you don't quite completely fit in either place. So I wanted to explore that, but I wanted to explore it through Mexico and mariachi as opposed to through Chile again.
Have you spent any time in Mexico?
Not enough.
Okay. So is this your way of sort of connecting in a way?
Yes. Yes, definitely.
And can we expect any sort of Mexican flavor to the language that that the characters speak?
They definitely do burst into Spanish, John especially, and there is a Mexican love song, but otherwise it's very much set here.
Okay, so that's just the culture of their home.
Yes.
Okay, and the corporate lawyer Rupert, what is his heritage?
He is, I think he could, in a way, what I love about this character, he could be anything, which I like for casting, is that you don't have to, I haven't specified his ethnicity.
Wonderful. So who will be reading on October the 18th?
On October the 18th, actually, the part of Rupert will be read by Fabrizio Filippo, who is Italian. Paloma Nunez will read the part of Sylvia, and Scott McCord, a fantastic musician, will be reading the part of Juan because he'll also be playing the songs.
Okay, I'm very familiar with Scott McCord's music, so
oh, really?
Yes, so definitely more incentive
that's so great.
to come and see the play,
He's fantastic
see the performance. So your director, tell me about working with Guillermo.
I think Guillermo is fantastic. I actually requested that I get to work with him on this, with Marilo. He's a fantastic writer and performer and director, and I really like that because I also write and perform and direct, so he's someone that I feel like I can learn from, and the language that we speak is so similar because he's not just coming at it from a dramaturgical point of view or a directorial point of view. He's really coming at it from all sides, and I think he makes theater that is interesting and political and also funny, and that to me is one of the most important things, that what I write has comedy in it, and even though I am tackling issues that are intense, like environmental devastation and mental illness, that there is still within everything room to enjoy oneself, to see what's entertaining in everything, and I think he's amazing at that.
Now, you've said that you write from your heart rather than your head.
Oh, geez. I didn't know that it was going to be on a video.
What do you mean by that?
I think what I mean directly is that I feel an emotion. So whatever's coursing through me, whether it be love or anger or fear or passion or anxiety or, that chemical, the adrenaline, whatever rush is moving through me is what sort of sparks these thoughts that run through me that then spurn me on to whatever I'm creating. That it's a kind of alchemy of sorts between an emotional state and trying to understand it and put words to it and express it.
So when you write, tell me. Let's talk about your process for a minute, because I just want to understand how you in particular write. So when you write from your heart, are you putting everything down on the page and then you go back and then sort of analyze what you've written? Is that how it works?
No, I mean, when I write from my heart, I'm not necessarily writing down everything that I'm feeling or thinking. I definitely often journal some thoughts that I'm having. But when I do actually get down to writing, I tend to be a bit more methodical, and in some ways mathematical about what it is that I'm doing. It never works out. Like, you start every draft thinking, I'm going to write this first draft, and it's going to be really good. And then you're really obviously, or not, I am, maybe other people aren't, I'm, deeply disappointed by the end. And I go, oh, God, I thought this was so great. And then I have to go back, and I think writing is all about rewriting. Do it again and again and again until I find what it is. But I start sort of, it's this like kind of fluid creation, and then it very quickly becomes a bit more mathematical, I guess is the only word for it. Technical.
So in terms of your writing, do you definitely have a set beginning, middle, and end? I'm asking the question because I'm just wondering if your characters sometimes do things that you don't expect.
All the time. And I wish, and that's like the biggest pain, because I feel like it would just be so great if you always had the beginning, middle, and end. But then you don't necessarily have room for surprises.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely in marine life, because I've been developing it now for a year and a half, and it's gone through different workshop incarnations. It's changed. Like the beginning, middle, and end changed. So because the characters just didn't do that, they just wanted to do something else.
So, how right now, how long is Marine Life in terms of the reading?
Marine Life now will read it's a one act, and so it'll read at just over an hour right now.
Okay. And will this remain a one act play, do you think? Or do you think you'll flesh it out to more?
I think it's always going to be a one act play. I have a feeling that it'll be a play to run, about an hour 15, an hour and a half without an intermission.
Okay.
Kind of because of the drive of it now. If it did stop, it would sort of, well, there is a point at which it could, but it would really change the movement of it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, if it's finished, it's finished, because you can always write forever, right?
You really can, and it's not finished now. So please come next week to see something really fresh.
All right. Rosa, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
And you can catch Marine Life on Friday, October the 18th, 8 p.m. And I'd like to thank my guest, Rosa Laborde, the playwright, for joining me today to talk about her production. The 6th annual De Colores Festival of New Works by Latin Canadian Playwrights runs October 16th to the 18th. Other plays include, on the 16th, Paradise Red by Bruce Gibbons. On the 17th, Solas by Jefferson Guzman. Also, Have You Lost Something by Flavia Evia. And more information can be found at alamedatheatre.com, ALAMEDATHEATRE.com, alamedatheatre.com. Tickets can be purchased by calling Arts Box Office at 416-504-7529 or by visiting artsboxoffice.ca. Tickets prices are $15, $40 for a pass, and HST will be added as well as a service fee. But you've got the website, so all the information is there for you. You're listening to CIUT 89.5 FM. The more the merrier. I'm Donna G. You're listening to CIUT 89.5 FM. Coming up at the Young People's Theatre on the main stage from October 16th to the 24th is the Dora-nominated A Story Before Time, an Ongwe Howe creation story. And joining me now by telephone is the artistic director and choreographer as well as performer, Santee Smith. Santee, welcome
Hello.
to CIUT.
Thank you.
So, how was my pronunciation of Ongwe Howe?
Very close, actually. It's pretty good.
Okay.
Ongwe. Yeah.
All right. And what exactly does it mean?
Ongwe is a way to that we would describe human beings. So, a literal English translation kind of refers to real people. So it's the people or real people. You'll find, like with most First Nations, the way that they call themselves means people, the people. So Ongwehoe in Mohawk means real people.
Okay. So can you just give a synopsis of the play?
Mm-hmm. It's a dance piece that has a narration, and it's the because it's for a young audience and family audiences, it tells a literal interpretation of the Ongwehoe creation story. And really it starts in the sky world. So it's our belief that we originated from the sky as sky dwellers, sky beings of light. And there was a world probably outside of our universe, which was the sky world. And through a series of events, the sky woman was sent down. And there's many interpretations of, like, everybody's storyteller has their own reason why she was sent down into the water world below, and some was because it was a dream, and some because she became ill. And anyway, so Sky Woman falls through the hole, through the roots of the celestial tree, which was a really important tree in the sky world. And as she's falling, she's reaching for, up back to the world, and pieces of seeds and all the important seeds fall onto her clothing and her hair and her fingertips, and the root. She takes some roots with her, and as she's falling into a water world, so she's falling into a world of darkness and water animals only. And so as she's falling, she's this beam of light, like a falling star, and the animals come to her rescue, and the geese fly up and they cushion her and float her gently down. And the water animals, they sort of get worried because they, she doesn't have a place to land, and she doesn't look like them, and they're not sure if she can swim. And so a giant turtle volunteers her back, and the geese place her on the turtle's back. And they notice that in her fingers she's got mud and earth or soil or mud, and they say, well, we have some of that too, and it's the bottom of the sea, the great water. And so a few volunteer to try to dive as deep as they can to bring up some earth and mud from the bottom of the water, and to place it on her back, because the turtle shell is hard, and it's not that comfortable to be on a turtle's back. So a series of animals go in there unsuccessful, and then the smallest animal, the muskrat, dives down and is able to get a small bit of mud and places it on the turtle's back. And then Sky Woman sang Nyaweh, or thank you, to the animals for helping her, sings and dances. And she dances a specific dance. She dances the women's shuffle, which is one of our women's Ongohoe dances, and as she's shuffling bits of the seeds and the earth and the roots and everything that she carried down with her from Sky World falls, and as she's spreading the mud spreads out, and I guess magically the turtle's back expands and expands and expands, and the seeds start to grow, and life sort of takes form on the turtle's back. So for us, we refer to Turtle Island as North America. So that's how we explain how life started on the turtle's back. So it's a very complex story. It has lots of metaphorical meanings as well. But from that, she was also pregnant as she fell. So when she gave birth to the Ditsune Garland, which is her exploding flower. That was her name. And so the two of them, as still sky beings of light, roamed Turtle Island. And West Wind was a spirit force that was traveling across the universe, and he heard the daughter singing, and through meeting her, he placed 2 arrows on her stomach, and as he left, to continue his whirling journey with the wind, he from that she had 2 twins. She had twin boys, and from that there was sort of brought the sense of duality to Turtle Island. So one twin was light and one was dark and positive and negative, and one was a creator and one was not a destroyer but deconstructionist person, I guess. And they battled to see who would rule the earth. And what they decided is that they would have to live in balance, and that
that's fantastic. Living in balance.
It's a very complex story, and every storyteller has their little different version, and then there's an adult version, and then there's a children's version. But I grew up listening to the creation stories. My parents would tell me that as a young child, and so I had always had that as some, it sparks your imagination of hearing, seeing animals and sky world and the water, and the story itself is a really pivotal and really fundamental story within Ongohoe culture.
Now, it says in the press release that I got, it says it incorporates Mohawk and Cayuga languages.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the differences? Like, what areas are we talking about with these languages?
Well, the Ongohoe makes up the 6 nations. So 6 nations came together to form first it was 5 nations, then it became 6 nations, the Confederacy. And that's Mohawk, Cayuga, Onondaga, Oneida, Seneca, and Tuscarora. That's 6.
Okay.
Tuscarora was added later. So we're all within each nation, although distinct. We're all within the Ongohoe, or the people of the Longhouse. That's our group as a big nation. And linguistically, we are very similar, so a very similar language, but each has a specific language. So Mohawk, I'm Mohawk, and how the language comes into the story is through the singing and the soundtrack and a little bit of the narration. So most of it is in English, so I really wanted people to understand the story, so it doesn't, it's not a translation or surtitles or anything like that, but all of the music was originally created for the work and reflects some of the songs are in Mohawk and then some are in the Cayuga language. So I worked with and commissioned different singers and songwriters from the Six Nations community, and depending upon which nation they were from, they would write in their own language.
Okay. I was interested to see Rick Shadrach Lazar as one of your musicians. I
Yeah.
know him from klezmer.
Yeah, I worked with him earlier on quite a bit on my first work, so I collaborated with him mostly because I was collaborating with Donald Kwan. So Donald Kwan was my main composer, and through working with Donald then brought in, musicians that he was working with at the time, and I think him and Rick shared a studio space. So Rick is on this Story Before Time soundtrack, and I worked with him on other works as well, but it was always through Donald Kwan.
Now, The Story Before Time, this version is written by Drew Hayden Taylor. So how is his version? You mentioned that there are differences in how the story is told. So does he tell the more the adult or childlike, or is his sort of in between? Which version of?
Oh, yeah. Well, the sort of the story that I described to you, I gave him as the director the version that I wanted to tell.
Okay.
Which was the sort of overarching themes that you would tell children.
Right.
And because it was for families and young audiences, it's not going into too much depth in terms of metaphors and things like that unless you infer them or you talk about them after. So his writing, I worked with him very closely, so I gave him the version that I would like to tell, and including like all the specific animals, because sometimes the animals switch up a little bit. Sometimes it's not the muskrat, sometimes it's the otter. So it depends upon who's telling the story. So from that, he took my version, and then he wrote the dialogue, the narration, in his a little comedic style. And so there's
because he's very funny.
Yeah. So I wanted to. It's lighthearted, and it's a little quirky.
So when you were telling me this story, I'm envisioning, the color ranges, like the blues and the earth tones. Tell me about some of the costumes that are part of this.
Yeah. Well, we originally, it was co-produced by the Banff Center for the Arts, so we were out in Banff when we created, so we had the opportunity to work with their production staff. So all of the costumes and the original costume design happened out there with Linda Leon, who's a really fabulous designer. And so the sky beings, of course, we were thinking of all the hues of the sky, so blues and purples, and even, bits of painting of silver and trying to be shimmery. And then the animals are very realistic looking. So as a part of the production out there, we had them props create, realistic animal heads that people wear. So we have the otters and the muskrat and the chipmunk and a raccoon and a deer. And so it really animates the stage quite a bit. Of course, we're working in the theater where we're touring, and so we don't bring a giant set with us, but we have colorful painted scrims that represent the sky world, and interesting, props, but it's not really like too prop set heavy.
So in the performance, do you have sort of a audience participation in the songs, or no?
No, not in this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
the storyteller is sort of she's envisioning and retelling the story, and it's actually being played by my daughter, Santee Smith, and she bridges the two worlds, the story and what's happening, and then she speaks out to the audience. So she really takes on the storyteller role. So, I mean, there's questions out, but it's not participatory where people are responding.
And how old is your daughter?
She's 15.
Okay. So she's definitely the link to the audience, through her youth as well.
Yeah. She was originally in the story when she was 7. but she wasn't the narrator. She played one of the animal characters, and as she's grown, she toured it. We toured in 2011, and she took over the narrator. So she was 11. No, that was only 2 years ago. She was 13, and she did that. So
tell me more about your company, the Kahawi Dance Theater.
Yeah. Well, Gahawi means to carry, and it's my daughter's name, and it was also my grandmother's name. And through ceremony, that name was transferred to my daughter. So it's a family name, and it's also in the Mohawk language, it means to carry. And so I was dancing as a ballet dancer, and then I stopped dancing ballet. And when I came back to dance, I came back as a creator. So I started back into the dance world as a choreographer, and really decided that I wanted to pursue creating work that reflected a little bit of my own identity, whether it was the stories that I was telling, or the design, or the influences, be it traditional or contemporary. And so I started as an independent choreographer in 1996. And I just, I started, enjoying it and really making it a focus and a career for myself, and started to work more and more and more consistently around the year, and produced my first work as an independent in 2004, the sort of the signature of my choreography called Kahawi. And the following year, I was working with the Dance Umbrella of Ontario, incorporated into a not-for-profit called Kahawi Dance Theatre. So since 2005, I've had the company as an organization, and now we have charitable status as well, but also as a vehicle to continue creating work and collaborating and doing being an arts organization.
That's wonderful. So you're doing the Kahawi, carrying forward.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Because carrying forward, and that's what I had always wanted as a creator, to also be creating new work. So it's sometimes hard to describe our type of work. It's not really contemporary ballet or contemporary dance, because it's
there's no reason to put it in a box.
Yeah, and then so we was like, how do we describe it? And part of what we write about now is that it's sort of an intersection between new dance performance, because performance is a really big component for me as an artist too.
Yeah. Well, in so many cultures, the dance, the music, and the story are not separate things.
No, they are not. Yeah, especially like for our culture as well. For every ceremony that we have, it's very theatrical. Somebody's always orating, speaking, and we're singing and dancing all at the same time. So, sort of integrated and not siloed out in any way.
Well, Santi, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about A Story Before Time.
Thank you.
We'll have to have you back to talk more about your dance theater and the other events that you have coming up.
Great. Yeah,
okay.
I'm working on a solo performance, so that's something new that's coming out in May. I'll be doing a world premiere at the Harbourfront Center on Wave Theater.
Okay. So we'll look forward to that.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Santee. And you can catch A Story Before Time at Young People's Theatre, 165 Front Street East. It runs on the main stage from October 16th to the 24th. The recommended grades is 1 to 5, ages 6 and up, but adults, of course, are welcome. youngpeoplestheatre.ca. I'd like to thank my guest, Santee Smith, for joining me to talk about the production. You're listening to CIUT 89.5 FM, the more the merrier.